Man, guys, from the song "The Naked Gun," right?
Yeah. Hey, hold on, bro. I would like to quote Frank Drebin here, bro. It's true what they say. Cops and women don't mix. It's like eating a spoonful of Drano. Sure, it'll clean you up, but it'll leave you hollow inside.
Oh, he says that on Naked Gun? Really? Yeah.
About 100 stupid quotes, man. But I
Oh
remember.
man, I just finished watching the number 20 or whatever it is with Liam Neeson. I just finished watching that. I mean, I love this show. But you know what, guys? Right before the show, we got a chance to talk to her and her personality. I can't wait. This lady is a legend. Man, I can't wait to get her on. But guys, let me give everybody a warm welcome that's watching us. First of all, Mike Martinez, brother, thank you very much. You are absolutely right. She's the GOAT of the US Marshals for the District of Colorado. She's a legend. And you know what? For those of you who don't understand, GOAT stands for greatest of all time. And there is no doubt. We are excited to have her with us, a true legend. We have all the way from Riverside. Thank you, sister, for watching us. That's been with us from the very beginning. We got all the way from Thailand. We got Dim to Janice. And you know what, Jim? I heard the conversation you had with Benny. You're going to be coming on pretty soon. Brother, we cannot wait, man, to have you on. We have Reverend Rents, our new chaplain. Thank you, brother. Your message last week was dynamic. We can't wait to have you back. And also at the same time, we've been getting a lot of very positive feedback, brother. You touched a lot of hearts, and the Lord touched a lot of hearts. Thank you. We got San Diego Police Department gang detective, a robbery detective, a true legend. Chris Kilby, thank you, brother. Man, you've been with us from the very beginning also, brother. And then Mike Martinez, I know we're going to talk about that when she met Elvis Presley. And we have our first lady. Benny is our producer. He's the main guy on our show. And we call his beautiful wife, Patsy. Those of you who haven't seen her picture, she's a very beautiful woman, both inside and out, our first lady. And she's always watching us and always encouraging us to keep doing what we're doing. And thank you, Patsy. We love you and appreciate you always watching us. And we got our pastor, Zamora, watching us. And I know sometimes you don't get to watch us, Pastor, but thank you very much, brother, for watching us and for supporting us and for being with us also from the very beginning. We got Amos Otis watching us about living through and witnessing so much. And we got Nelson Arriaga. Let me tell you about Nelson Arriaga. I finally got a chance to meet this man in person. And I know, Benny, that you have a shout out. You know what? Let's start off with your shout out. And then I want to talk briefly about Nelson and where I'm at today. Go ahead, Benny.
My shout out's very short. We're going to post a flyer on this shout out on our webpage. So anybody who hasn't signed up on our webpage yet, go ahead and sign up. We put a lot of information there sometimes. And I'm going to be putting up a flyer from Blue Line Academy. And that's for Andy Eways. He's a sergeant with the Aurora Police Department in Colorado. Andy's an expert in Tren de Aragua. So he's going to be giving a class at HIDA Training Center in Commerce, California, here coming up September 15. So I'm going to post a flyer. It's got the QR code. It's got all the information you guys need. Just tap into our webpage and you'll see it there.
Pepe Martinez, prayers for you and all our brothers and sisters at Calipatria. I believe it was Sunday. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I believe it was Sunday. One of the they call them big homies. One of the members of the Mexican Mafia wanted to take a shower, asked the CEO to allow him, and it was, I guess, they had already expired. The time had expired. It was a planned attack on our correctional officers. I believe over 11 correctional officers were attacked and were assaulted by members, not members of the Mexican Mafia, but by Sureños who are their soldiers. And a lot of our correctional staff got hurt. And prayers for them, and prayers for the California Department of Corrections that new programs, new rules, new everything needs to be implemented, because I don't think it's ever been as violent as it is today. But guys, real brief, as you can see, I'm wearing my name tag with the California Gang Investigators Association. I'm at their conference here in Anaheim, California. We're literally right across the street from Disneyland. I'll tell you, in my 32 years career in law enforcement, I had never attended even though I worked gangs like for 8 years of my career, but we were always so busy. I never had a chance to attend either of the gang conferences, whether it was IGLA, whether it was California, whether it was San Diego. And I'll tell you, this is I think my third gang conference since I've been retired. And I'm going to be teaching tomorrow a 2-hour class on PTSD and also on police suicides. And I'll tell you, Benny, I know we have your conference coming up in Palm Springs, and I'm looking forward to it. Starting next week, we're going to push it hard on our channel. But I am truly impressed with the California Gang Investigator Association. Today, they had their opening ceremonies. Benny, I have a whole list of things that I saw today. I'll tell you, it started with the bagpipes coming down, playing the bagpipes. They had the Honor Guard, Anaheim Police Department Honor Guard. The speakers in the morning, they only spoke like 3 to 5 minutes. We had the chief of police from the Los Angeles Police Department, the sheriff from Los Angeles Police Department, the chief of police from Anaheim Police Department, the sheriff for the Orange County Police Department, the chief of police for Long Beach. I mean, we had all this support from law enforcement, and above and beyond, we had the new district attorney who talked about the new gang laws that he had to reestablish that Gascon had thrown out when he was the district attorney. It was a wonderful event. I'm telling you right now, California Gang Investigators, you guys are definitely, without a doubt, man, on steroids. I am impressed. We have over, I believe, 650 to 700 participants. It is an outstanding conference. And you know, the funny thing, Benny, people come up to me and they go, we see the gray line. It's Benny Cruz. Chano, they don't ask about you and me. They ask about Benny Cruz. Is Benny Cruz coming? No, Benny Cruz is not coming. Why? Dude, they don't care about us. They care about Benny. Benny, you are popular throughout Southern California, man.
Hey, have you seen Johnny Ray out there? I heard he's out there.
You know what? Yes, I met Johnny Ray today. And Boxer Enriquez was here shortly. He signed some books. Interesting character, interesting young man. He's not young, but interesting man. He co-taught a class, but he's no longer here. But it was very interesting. But yes, I met Johnny Ray. And dude, when I met him, I didn't know who he was. I know he's been on our show like 2 or 3 times. When I first saw him, he comes up to me, he goes, "You're Contreras?" I go, "Yeah, I'm David Contreras. Nice to meet you." And he goes, "I'm Johnny Ray." I go, "Oh my God, he's a lot taller, thinner, good-looking young man." And it was an honor to meet him. And tomorrow, hopefully, we're going to be able to break some bread, have some lunch or something. But I got Sean and Doug coming over here tomorrow to my class. But guys, I am impressed. Guys, Nelson, thank you very much. I am honored to be here. Listo. All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
I know, brother. But you know what? I just want to throw a shout out, man. It's going to be great tomorrow. But Chalo, it's all yours, brother. And as soon as you mention her name, she's coming on.
All right,
Listo?
hey guys. So ladies and gentlemen, guys and gals, whatever you want to call yourself. Today's guest, we have Tina Rowe. Tina started her law enforcement career in 1969 with the Denver Police Department and retired as a captain after a 23-year career there. She served in every division, commanded the Academy, Internal Affairs, and the Patrol District, and Patrol District 2, I'm sorry. She was presidentially appointed as United States Marshal for Colorado from 1994 until 2002. She was in charge of the security for the Oklahoma City bombing trials and coordinated the federal law enforcement response at Denver International Airport after September 11th, 2001. She has provided training and presentations throughout her career, and since 2002, she has been involved in a wide range of consulting, writing, training, and a lot of presentations. Let's welcome Tina, guys.
Thank you. I feel like I'm kind of dull after that big rousing thing we had at the beginning. I thought we were going to have an altar call. I was getting the Kleenex out. I was going to go cry and give my heart to the Lord again.
Yeah.
Oh man. Hey, Tina. So you know what? Before we start, that song, Tina, you chose that song.
Yeah. I did because people, often I've watched your shows to sort of see, what was going on and so forth. And I noticed that everybody picked sort of heavy metal or really serious things. And I thought, well, what song seems to sort of typify my approach to life? And I figured Naked Gun came as close as anything. So that's why I picked it. If you can't have fun, there is just no point. My life pretty much is just see if I can have fun. So that's it.
That's
awesome.
Right. That's right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. Hey, so since you say your life, Tina, tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you were born, what were your family dynamics like, and what were your dreams and goals growing up?
Okay, well, now I told you all this beforehand. Pretty much anything I'm going to say today is focused on the people listening who are either, well, it'll fit all of us, retired, thinking about being retired, going to be retired one of these days, whatever the situation is. So I just could not let this opportunity go past to use it to come back to that. So and I'm sharing a couple of things that I've never mentioned to anybody because there's just no point. But today there's a point. I was born in just truly abject poverty in rural Georgia. And I had 4 older brothers. My father was just a raging, and when I say raging, I mean it, a raging alcoholic. Our home life was just screaming and yelling and anger and anger and anger all the time. And my mother was just so patient and so loving and such a strong person. And I had these 4 older brothers. You would think with 4 older brothers that I'd be like, the spoiled little princess, the youngest and the only girl. But they were angry, mean people. And even though when they grew up, and this is why I'm talking to some of you all, they grew up, and as adults, some of them were truly heroic in the military. I have a brother that had 2 silver stars, a bronze star, 2 purple hearts, and flew Phantom jets in Vietnam. So nobody could say he isn't heroic. And he's passed away now. But every meal was ruined with anger and rants, and I hate this thing, and I don't like that thing. And so now when people talk about him, of course, his family, his close family, loves him. But almost every time they shake their head and say, oh my goodness, think about all the times this guy got mad about something. And my 3 other brothers were exactly the same way. And so I'm mentioning that to some of you all is that I don't want your legacy to be that what you're known for is that you have something you're bitching and pissing and moaning about all the time, because that tends to be a legacy for a lot of retired police officers. And I don't want to see that happen. So I mentioned that to say just that. My mother was a strong person. We moved to a little rural town in Kansas, still poor. And I just always figured I could do everything I wanted to do. It just never occurred to me I couldn't. I moved to Denver because that seemed like a fun thing to do when I was a young adult. And I was going to sew some clothes. So I was looking for a used sewing machine. And on the way back, I saw an ad that said, now hiring police women. And I thought, well, now that'd be kind of interesting. So I always say, I didn't find the job found me. And I am not any of you all. I'm probably not like most of the people watching, really. I'm not tactically spectacular. I can shoot, but I'm not a great shot. I don't love some of the things that other people just really think are really, fantastic things to do. But I served in every division multiple times. I was always effective. But my life has been focused on, I love the badge. I love law enforcement. I want other people to feel the same way about it. But I think there has to be more to us than just the technical stuff, the operational stuff we do. So I've just had a great time with it. I've really enjoyed it. It's like the Beatles song about I once had a girl, I once had a job, or should I say it once had me. That's sort of the way I feel about it. So I had a great career. I just loved it. And I loved the way I got into it. It made it fun.
Wow.
And Tina, you came on in 1968, correct?
1969.
Oh, 69. Okay,
Yeah.
were you one of the first females hired by the Denver Police Department?
Yeah, they had hired a couple decades before that to work like with juveniles. And they just decided to, and I'll tell you this real quickly, I won't take real long. Isn't that incredible that
Yeah.
I'm the
You all
only one that's,
you all have mini skirts on.
yes, and I'm the only one that's out of step. But what happened was I had my interview planned. And so I went down to the Civil Service Commission, really nervous. And I got on the elevator, and there was a fireman on the elevator and an old guy with a cigar in his mouth. I thought he was old. I looked back on it. I think he was 40, but to me, he seemed old. And the fireman said, well, Chief Seaton, what are you doing here? I thought, oh my gosh, that's George Seaton, the chief of police. And he said, you're not going to believe this, but we're going to hire some little gals. They thought it'd be a good thing to do. I mean, what the heck? I don't know. And the fireman said, well, that's something. And I said, oh, sir, I was so happy to meet you. You're the reason I didn't get much sleep last night. And he said, he used the F word. Watch it, girl. If somebody's going to hear that, and we're all going to be in trouble. And the fireman shook his head. I walked out with the chief and I said, oh, I'm just so excited. I think this will be so neat. I'm looking forward to this. We got about to the interview room and he said, honey, I got to go in there. You go where the other little gals are and I'll see you later. There were about 200 women waiting. And when I finally went to my interview, I went through it. I didn't know till almost a year later that after I left, one of the people said, well, she's not what we want at all. And Chief Seaton said, no, actually, I think she is what we want. And he said, well, Chief, she doesn't fit the criteria that you told us. She's too skinny. They used to call me Twiggy. And she talks too much. And he said, yeah, but I just see something in her and I want to hire her. Now, I always tell people this. Do you think if I hadn't talked to him on the elevator, he would have supported me? I don't think so, just because there'd have been no reason to. So I always tell everybody, you never know who you're going to meet. You always have to be ready to present yourself in the right way. Hey, you've got that article up there. How's that? A real traffic stopper. How's that for a headline?
Oh my
God.
Now
I'm a clock stopper. There's a whole difference between traffic stopper and clock stopper. Hey, see the dress I'm wearing with Elvis? That's the dress I sewed with the sewing machine I got.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
I didn't want to go in and get my picture taken. I felt stupid. They said, hey, Elvis is here. Come on over. He was a real friend of the Denver Police Department's. Jerry Kennedy was our captain, and he really liked Jerry Kennedy. So I said, no, I don't want to go over. And they said, I mean, truly, I just didn't care. And they said, well, come on over. So I got my picture taken. And right before I took the picture, I turned to Elvis and I said, and if you're very nice, I'll give you my autograph when we're done. And he kind of laughed. I was just dowdy. He didn't care about me. But when the picture got finished, he said, well, now that wasn't very friendly. And he gave me a little kiss. I remember him kissing me. And I would love to have had a photo of that. I look over and Bill Smith, who was the sergeant taking the pictures, he's still trying to pop a flash cube out of the camera. So I didn't get a picture of it, but it was a fun experience. But to show you how I was, he called a few days later, Elvis did, and I answered the phone. And he said, hey, is Jerry there? And I said, yeah, I'll get him. And he said, hey, Tina, if you get a chance, have him get that picture to me. I'll sign it for you. And I said, okay. And in my mind, I thought, what would I care whether you signed it or not? Because you're making these crummy movies, and I think you're on your way out. I truly did not register that he was going to be this thing, and I would have loved to have had him autograph it. I ought to sign it and pretend like it's his signature and write, dear Tina, you're the best I ever had or something. But I never got around to it. So
you're the best kisser from Colorado.
Yeah, the best kisser. Absolutely.
Oh, hey, so did his lips taste like peanut butter? Banana?
No, I don't think so. But he had really soft lips. I'll tell you that. He was sweet.
Remember?
Tina, that those pictures with the dress brings back memories. When I got hired with the Imperial County Sheriff, we had all the female. They weren't even peace officers. They were matrons, and they wore the skirt and they wore the hat and they worked the front counter. Yeah, they got to pat down the ladies when the ladies that were arrested. They got to pat them down, and they worked the housing unit, but they wore skirts and they wore those shoes, and
Oh yeah. Well, memories. Let me tell you, when I first started in patrol, I was doing all the work that any other patrol officer did, and my weapon was in my purse, which was usually in the car. It was a little 38 5-shot Chief Special. I carried it in my purse, and the purse was right back in the car. And so, I mean, that was just the way we did things. I will tell you, I never felt like, I never felt put down or anything. Of course, you wouldn't want to do it now, but that was just the way it was. So I really didn't question it. I will tell you, sometimes my legs got so cold in Denver, Colorado. out of the car doing whatever we were doing, whatever I was doing, because I had to work solo because they wouldn't put a man in the car with me. My legs would get so cold, I'd feel like they would break, like the skin would just break. They were so cold. It was a miserable way to do your work. So that's why I tell a lot of young officers nowadays that, not just young, but I tell a lot of officers nowadays, they gripe about this thing and this thing and this thing. And I always say, hey, try doing it in a skirt and high heels and see how committed you are to the job. That's when you can really tell.
Wow.
Hey, Tina, so tell us about this picture. Why did it come out in the paper? I mean, you were definitely a looker. And I mean,
Yep.
I can't read the inscription on it. All I see is a real traffic stopper. Were you chasing somebody? What's the story behind it?
We had protests, war protests. And so there were people marching and all of that. And later they gave me a helmet and nightstick, and I would join with everybody else. But, like often happens, officers were staged at different places, and I just happened to be there. And it was so unique to have a woman doing anything that I got in the paper for all kinds of things that would be just ludicrous nowadays. And then to put that, a real traffic stopper. And thank you for saying it, but no, I never have been a pretty person. I just don't look like, an absolute troll. But it was nice to always be able to get attention like that. It worked out pretty nicely. The first police pursuit that I was on, I use this in class a lot. In fact, I can use it right with you guys, the three of you. I can use this as an example. I was watching a stop sign, and a guy ran the stop sign, and I speeded up and went past him. He went through a red light and then another red light, and then turned the corner and skidded on the ice and wrecked his car. So I was right behind him. I skidded on the ice, hit up against a street sign. And in fact, one of the photographs you showed was the officer that covered me because my car had wrecked. And so, all of that happened. So I had to go to the accident review board. That was all over. By the way, I had a radio station from Australia called me and played the tape of that pursuit. Like this was some huge big thing. So anyway, I had to go to the accident review board. And the first question they ask, of course, is, my sergeant was there. And the first question they asked was, well, how long did this pursuit last? So I'll ask you three guys. I drove a block, another block, turned the corner, and it was over. So how long do you think that pursuit lasted?
20 seconds?
Yeah, probably. So they said, how long did this pursuit last? And I said, 15 or 20 minutes, I think. And my sergeant said, I think she read her notes wrong. It's actually 15, 20 seconds, probably. Yeah. And they all looked down and took notes and shook their heads and stuff. I often use that as an example, though. That was my sergeant. Now, what was his job? Get me ready for that interview so I didn't look stupid. But nevertheless, it was a learning experience anyway. But I always get a kick out of that. Just how, and I'm going to mention this too. I'll use this. This is the time I can interject this. I am fortunate in that more than anyone I know, I interact with officers that are trying to get in law enforcement, officers that are at academies, officers that hope to get promoted, officers that have been promoted and are having problems, officers that are looking at retirement. I mean, I just get this chance. I get my emails just packed with that kind of thing all the time. And we so often will hear people say, well, these young officers or these young guys, the technology changes just like it does, for us, how things change. My first patrol car, I had the siren was on the floor and you had to push it. And we had the radio was attached and all that. But if you were to talk to the officers I talk to right now and just talk to them about where their heart is and what they want to achieve. If they are decent people, there's some people don't belong in law enforcement, but if they are good-hearted people, you would not know whether they were hired in 2025 or in 1970 or in 1950 or 1990. Their heart is still as good as anybody's is. And they're not trying to look for shortcuts, and they're always trying to do the right thing. And I like to get that in because pretty much every generation has this thing of where, well, they're not like it was when I was hired. No, but you were a dope when you were hired too. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Tina, today, today, David and I were talking about the new generation of cops, the appearance, the dress code. You know, remember, David? We were talking about that.
Yeah,
but that changes some. But let me just tell you this: one part of that is nobody requires anything differently. So I wouldn't spiffy up if nobody told me to. And so I think sometimes those officers who are command officers, chiefs, sheriffs, higher ranking people and so forth, you say, well, who abdicated their role when they said, okay, I guess if you really don't want to, you don't have to do this. And if you really don't want to, you don't have to wear a tie. And if you don't really want to, you don't have to do this. And then they sit back and gripe and say, these young guys, they want all this stuff. And you say, well, who gave it to them? Maybe we needed to have held the line more on some of the appearance issues and so forth. So I really feel strongly about that. I feel strongly about the fact that we tend to blame younger officers for the things that we have allowed them to sort of take control of for themselves instead of holding the line to what we know is right for the profession. You know what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying?
And you know what, Tina? I agree with you 100%. And right before I retired, I had numerous arguments with lieutenants and captains with the San Diego Police Department about that, because we would go to training, supervisor training and so forth, and there will always be one or two idiots that would get up, a captain or a lieutenant would get up and say, this new generation. And I looked at one of the lieutenants that was saying that. The internet's going on. But I looked at one of the lieutenants and I go, what do you mean this new generation? And I had come up the ranks with, she made captain eventually. And I told her, here, when we came on, the older generation basically said that we were, a terrible generation. And oh my God, the department's not going to last another 10 years with this new generation. And look, it survived. And Absolutely. You know what? Now, 20 years later, they're up here, they're captains, lieutenants, and now they're talking about this new. You know what? It doesn't change. You always have slugs, and you always have go-getters. And you know what? Our heart's in the right place, and our heart has always been to make somebody's life. So that I agree with you 100%.
Are you hearing me okay? I had trouble hearing you, so I want to make sure that everybody's hearing okay.
You're coming in nice and clear. David's
okay.
Up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I teach a class.
Went wrong with the internet. Yeah.
I teach a class that's called Strategic Patrolling, Never Random or Routine. Isn't it ironic that an old lady in Colorado is teaching the class that ought to be being taught every place? But I teach that class because I want officers to realize that there are a wide range of things we can do between calls for service. And if all we do is handle calls for service, then we're just call takers. We might as well just, that's all we do. There's so many other things to do. So I teach the class. There's a strategy to it. People really like it. And sergeants and chiefs will call me later and say, oh my gosh, this is incredible. The officers are motivated. They've done more self-initiated work in the last couple of weeks. I have officers call me and say, this meant so much to me. 6 months later, I will hear from them and I'll say, how's everything going? And they'll say, well, the guys felt like it kind of made it where they were just hopping all the time. And they kind of didn't like keeping track of the stuff that way. And they kind of didn't. So at some point you say, well, why don't we just say this is our policy now? And you do it. You just do it. That's all. But we get this thing of they didn't really want to, and we don't want to make them. And I know for people listening, you think I was a hard ass. I am not. I am very big on inspiration and motivation, but I'm also very big on when we know there's a way to do something better, we need to insist it be done that way.
One of the things, Tina, that since we're on the subject of this and on uniform standards, I'm overweight cop, but you know what? My uniform was always tailored. I always wore a vest. As a chief, 98% of the time I wore a uniform every day, full gun belt, vest, spit shine boots, not your Corofran boots or shoes, spit shine boots. Leather gear was always polished and black. And I tell people, you know what, man? I said, it's how you present yourself. And if you start just with that alone, it carries on. Because if you look, in a regular person in a regular day, when somebody dresses up really nice, and everything, and people give them compliments, it makes them feel good. If you're going to go up, if you're at a store and you see a clerk and you got a clerk that looks really good, nicely dressed, clean uniform, whatever, and the other clerk looks like a slob, who are you going to go ask for directions or information to? The clean looking person, because this person looks, sharp. He looks presentable. He looks like he knows what he's doing, takes care of himself, has pride in himself, pride in his work. Where the slob might know more, but he's a slob.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me now? Because my Bluetooth went off. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. I want to hit what you just said. I feel badly for many officers because look at the gear they wear nowadays. I mean, how could you hardly even move with all of the stuff that they're wearing? And much of it is really necessary. I mean, it is, because life has changed so much. So there was a time when we could put on a gun belt and cuffs, mace, our holster, some extra ammo. I'm counting it as I go. And that would kind of do us. Maybe a sap in our sap pocket, and that would kind of do it. And now there is so much to wear. And then the ballistic vests take up so much space. I feel sorry for a lot of officers that are just carrying this burden around with them all the time. And that makes your appearance difficult to maintain sometime. It's not as easy as it used to be. Let me toss in, though, while I'm ranting, they're going to think I'm just this raging witch by the time I get done with this. But here's a big frustration of mine. Start noticing this. Start noticing it. If you look on TikTok or YouTube or something, they've got the ballistic vests. Where do they put their hands? Inside the vest. They stand around like that with them inside the vest. Yeah. It's not safe. It looks goofy, like, what are you touching while you're doing that?
Yes.
And it's really unprofessional looking. And I wish we would say, if you're going to wear a ballistic vest, your hands should not be in there any more than they should be in your pockets. They need to be ready to take action. So I mentioned that at a conference. You would have laughed. I mentioned that at a conference, and the histrionics that people went through to explain why that's actually safer to keep your hands inside your vest that way were incredible. And finally, somebody said, well, actually, it's just kind of comfortable, but it doesn't look good. So I really wish we did talk more about just the appearance of people, how we present ourselves.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that when I was a chief, I remember I'm the one that allowed. We finally went to everybody can wear these tactical outer vests. And my guys would do that, but I would understand with them here in the summertime in the Pearl Valley because it gets 114, 15, 16 degrees. Ooh. And so I see the guys doing this to try to vent themselves, but not when they were contacting people. Usually when I would see them, they were out here doing something else.
Oh yeah, I can easily see that when you're just trying to get a little bit of air. I've done the same thing. But not just to stand that way while you're talking with people that you're getting ready to arrest. It just doesn't look very good. So
Tina, let's get back into this because there's some quick questions. So, so after, you worked there, you guys wore, your different careers, uniforms. You started wearing the skirt and everything, and we know it was hard. Was it hard working back then in a very male-dominated area, when it came to the profession back in the 60s, 70s?
It probably was to a lot of people. It should have been more to me, to be real honest with you, but I tend to be sort of vacant. I mean, when I'm focused on what I'm focused on, you could practically come up and spit in my face, and I don't much care. You try to call out. I was 108. So 10, and before you'd hit the 8, they'd start clicking the mic so you couldn't get out on the air. So it would be 10, click, 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 click. 10, click, 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 click. That gets frustrating day after day, let me tell you. Try to get cover. Nobody would cover for anything. I one time had a dispatcher say, if I have to leave dispatch and come out there and cover her myself, you're going to be sorry. And I got some cover as a result. But that got very, very frustrating to deal with. And the fortunate thing for me, and that's why I keep saying this about about why I'm grateful I have the personality I have, which is that I just figured that wasn't my fault and I was going to do what I needed to do. And so I just went ahead and did what I was going to do. I wasn't allowed to stand at roll call at first because the sergeant I had thought it was bad luck to have a woman at roll call. So I had to stand outside the door while Sergeant Chapman did roll call. And let me tell you, people like that, he had a rather ignominious passing. He did a bad thing he did a bad thing. And when I read about it, I thought, well, I guess he got his. And so I just moved through life. I just really did. We got out of the skirts in about 1972 and then, did other things. I did other things. I was the first woman sergeant. So I became a sergeant in 1979. You pretty much are going to be the first woman in anything at that point. But 1979, which to me is day before yesterday.
Wow.
But the night before I started there as a sergeant, the captain called me and warned me that some of the officers said they wouldn't come in because they weren't going to work for a woman. Now, isn't that just stupid? And that's what I told him. I said, you don't need to worry because they are not going to let that get in the way of their career. And sure enough, they didn't. They all showed up and they all liked me and we did just fine. So it was just sort of a time that was problematic sometimes, I think. So, you just kind of go with whatever you have to work with.
So you were the first female sergeant in Denver. Then did you promote to like lieutenant, then captain, or how?
Yep. Promoted to lieutenant and then promoted to captain, went to District 2. That was the first time we'd had a woman in charge of a patrol district, which is, again, that's no big thing. It just happened to work out that way. But so I just moved through the ranks and always, I didn't always do as well as I wish I could if I could go back. Wouldn't you? If you could go back to some of your assignments, wouldn't you do better now?
Oh, without a doubt.
Given experience. And so I look at some things, especially as a lieutenant and a captain, and I wish I could do it again, but I can't. And so that's why I do a lot of training, is to say, learn from some of my mistakes as well as some of my accomplishments too, because I accomplished a lot of things. Then I had the opportunity for that marshal's position. It's a political appointment. I'm unaffiliated and always have been. So it was really kind of this cosmic gift that I got that position. But at the time, I had no idea what it would involve, really. Somebody just said, hey, do you want to do this? I mean, I know I was just vacant, man. And in fact, I didn't know what the salary was until I was sworn in, because I was embarrassed to ask because I didn't want people to think I was greedy. So I had no idea even what I was supposed to be doing or getting paid. But who would have known that Oklahoma City would happen? And then who would know that the trial was going to be coming to Denver? And it was a tremendous opportunity. And you showed that picture of Tim McVeigh. I wanted to mention this to you. Remember I want to come back to it. Remember I started by talking about, let's watch ourselves when we do this angry ranting and venting, and we don't like this and we don't like that. The thing that really typifies Tim McVeigh is that he was uber patriotic, really, really patriotic. Everything was patriotism. He had a huge ego and he was angry and had a sense of misgiving. And you put those three things together, and it's amazing what people can convince themselves is the right thing to do. But to show you what he was like, and I like to mention this to people because, they see that picture, you got it up there. He looks like an angry young man, doesn't he? But if you didn't know what he did and you met him at the conference, you would say, what a nice young man. And loves his country and supports law enforcement and all of that. And when one of the first, I had many conversations with him, of course, but one of the first conversations I had with him was after we took custody of him. We had him for the first night. We had a cell set up at the courthouse, so we didn't have to keep transferring him all the time. But they had told me, I told him, I said, we just painted this floor. And if the fumes bother you, let me know. We'll put a fan in here. And he said, okay. So the next morning when I got there, I said, how'd everything go overnight? And they said, yeah, I don't know. He got up and did something. He was fooling around with his cot. We told him to go back to bed. I think they should have investigated further, but they didn't. And so whatever, I went in and I said, what was that all about? Why were you out of the cot? And that's when he showed me. Now, keep in mind what he had done. But that's when he showed me he had taken a styrofoam cup and torn it into fourths and put a piece under each leg of the cot because he noticed that the legs looked rough and he was afraid it would scratch the paint. And he said, I didn't want to scratch the fresh paint. And that was the kind of cooperation that he gave us the entire time. He really thought he was one of us in many ways, because after all, he loved his country and he supported law enforcement, and he just felt like he needed to make a point and kill some people. And I would have been happy to have administered the injection myself to take him out of this world. But I will tell you that I wish he wouldn't have done it, because there were other qualities about him that his anger and his excessiveness led him to. And had somebody intervened at some point, maybe that wouldn't have happened and people's lives would have been saved.
Wow.
Hey, Tina, he chose the firing squad, correct? Was he the one that chose the firing squad? No?
No, he was, I think it was gas. He had gas. He looked right. I told everybody, I said, I'll tell you what he's going to do. He will help them put the binding on his hand and he'll look right at the camera. And he did. He moved his wrist so that they could bind him down tighter. And then he stared at the camera until his eyes finally closed, because he was just defiant right to the end and thought he was so right. One story, which nobody ever hears, so you get to hear this first, see, is that we had a thing, and I won't go into the details of the thing, but he got angry about it, and he took his clothes off. He took his clothes off. So somebody says they're lethal injection. Yeah. He took his clothes off, and I was the one that convinced him to put them back on. I mean, that was the way it worked out, because I said, we're going to take you into court. And I made the mistake. This was my mistake. I used a phrase that I have used in law enforcement, and we have to watch that. If something works for us once, we tend to say it over and over again, and it may just be an accident that it worked for us once. Because I said what I've said before, which is, you might as well cooperate, because one way or the other, we're going to win this argument, and I don't want to see you go into court having to have us drag you in wrapped up in a sheet or something. So he ended up getting dressed. And I said, thank you for doing that. And he said, Marshal Rowe, before you leave, I just did want to mention something. You said that you would win at some point anyway. But I think I've shown that the government doesn't always win, does it? Wow. And his lawyer stepped forward and said, Tim, that's enough. And that was the end of that conversation. But that he was a young man that prided himself on, he loved that I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. And let me mention this. People might be interested in this just because it is interesting and nobody else would know this except me. But when he was sentenced, or before he was sentenced, when he was found guilty, he made a statement. And he quoted Justice Brandeis from the 1930s, the Supreme Court justice, who said that the government is our parents and we are its children. And if the government, our parents, commit crimes, then that teaches us to do it as well. He was referring to Ruby Ridge and things like that. But nobody in the audience knew that quote. I mean, you could see reporters like, what is that? What is that? And they all headed to the law library the second that was over with to look up, what is that quote? And so the phrase is the great omnipotent government or something. And so I went back to see him in the holding cell after all of that was done. And I said, how are you doing, Mr. McVeigh? That was always the way I would always approach everything. I said, how are you doing, Mr. McVeigh? He said, I'm fine. You were in the courtroom. Did you hear what I said? And I said, yeah. He said, could you hear it at the back? And I said, yeah, I could hear it. I could hear it just fine. He said, good. Because the thing is, I wanted to say something where 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20, 50, who knows, 100 years from now, people will remember that I said that. I just wanted to reach through the bars and crush. Well, I just wanted to reach through the bars and crush his Adam's apple. I'll just tell you that honestly. Because you say, you killed all of these people, and you think we're going to sit around and forever remember this quote? Nobody could hear your stupid quote, and nobody knew what it related to. But that shows you what ego and arrogance will do for you. He just thought we were going to sit and remember him forever. And he went away really damn quick, didn't he?
Tina, did he see you as an older sister? I know he saw you as a US Marshal, but did he confide in you? I mean, like an older sister, like a mother? What type? It sounds like you guys had a pretty good relationship. I know that we're not going to call it a relationship, but a pretty good rapport where he was comfortable enough to talk to you. How do you think he saw you?
I never had thought about it till you just asked. Maybe just a woman that he respected. He didn't have a mother in his life. He really liked Larry Hominick, who was the chief deputy, but he didn't have the same relationship with him. When I first met him, which was in Oklahoma, when we were going to pick him up at what's the name of the institution there in Oklahoma, and I'm so El Reno. I stepped forward and they said, something. I don't know how they introduced me. And he said, Rowe, is that Miss Rowe or Mrs. Rowe? And I said, it's Marshal Rowe. And he's, hey, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. And until almost the day that he left the courthouse to head down to Canyon City, he apologized every few weeks for, hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it that way. I didn't mean it disrespectfully. He just had a very strong sense of respect, and I think he liked me generally. And that's why I say this shows you many people watching this have been in corrections or are in corrections, and they can, I'm sure, vouch for this, that there are a lot of people that if you didn't know what they did, you could see some aspects of them where you say, I just wish life would have. Tim McVeigh's dad said to me one time, I wish I knew what happened to Timmy because he was such a nice kid. And then he went to Desert Storm and he came back and he was just never the same after that. It wasn't really the military. It was that he didn't achieve everything he wanted to achieve. He tried to be a Navy SEAL, and of course, just that didn't work at all. He tried to be like an Army Ranger, couldn't pass the physical test. And I think he just felt humiliated and decided to be angry. And then he got with friends that they would sit and stare at the television and yell at everything going on with the government. And the next thing you know, it became, we ought to teach them and we ought to do this. And that's what it led to. And that's why I will get up and leave the room. I one time flew to Texas to Arizona to be with my brother. And we sat down to dinner. And in 5 minutes, I got up and told him that I was leaving. And I went back and cashed in my ticket, took a loss, and flew back to Denver. Almost the last time I ever saw him. Because I said, I am tired of living around people that scream and yell and are angry about everything. So that's a reminder to us about the impact we have on people. That was Tim McVeigh's legacy, was I'm going to get even with the government. And I don't want to leave that kind of legacy in somebody's life.
Tina, because I know you're coming back, and I know Benny's jumping at the grill to ask you the next questions, but you're coming back. And you know what? Can you tell, without a doubt, I mean, man, I love your story. I can't believe you haven't written a book about just that case alone, but hopefully you will. But can you tell us, I'm a firm believer that history always repeats itself. I'm a firm believer if we don't do something about it. Where we're at right now, we're not a political channel at all. We don't talk politics. We don't talk religion. We talk about experiences. Can you see that right now? Timothy McVeigh's right now, the way our government is, can you see them right now being duplicated?
Well, and of course, this is always, anybody that hears me say this next thing will know that we always are kind of, on a show like this, we don't want to cause people to be angry, but I never thought I'd live to see the day when anybody would attack police officers and we would think they were heroes because of it. So that became for me a thing to say. Had Tim McVeigh been around on January the 6th, I can tell you he'd have been right there hitting against police officers and breaking in windows and doing whatever he took. And so I feel like I've said this ever since then, even before all of this. I have said, never think that element has not gone away. And let me mention this, and I know you're on time, and I'm sorry I talked too much.
No. You know what? You're coming back. That's a bottom line. I know Benny, our producer, is 100% behind us, and Chalo, but feel free. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say was, as a teenager, an older teenager, I was friends with some of the doctors in my little town in Arkansas City, Kansas. And I joined the John Birch Society. Now, I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the John Birch Society or not, but it was actually a very violent group. Our group was not violent, but it certainly did advocate violence against the American government in the name of patriotism. That's all it was we would go to our meetings. We had flags up all over the room. We would pledge allegiance. We would talk all of this talk, and then they would talk all of this terrible talk. And at age 19, long before I became a police officer, I wrote a letter that I read to them because I was too nervous to say it, where I said, I know you probably mean well, but I don't think this is good. And I don't want to be part of it. And I quit. So I did, but I missed them because they were doctors and lawyers, and I liked them, and it was my social group, and I missed that. And let me tell you, I can talk both sides of it. I was able to talk with them just like anything. And so when I was being interviewed for the police department, that had come up because I'd put it, they asked what organizations I'd been members of, and I said the John Birch Society. I was so vacant, naive. And so one of the questions was, now I see that you were a member of the John Birch Society. Chief Seaton said, I see that you were a member of the John Birch Society, but you didn't really support them, did you? And I said, oh, yes, sir, I did. Really, really nice people. And I really enjoyed being part of it. I didn't agree with everything, but he said, yeah, but I mean, like, you wouldn't want to be a member now, right? I said, well, I haven't been able to find a chapter here, but if I could, I might, try to look them up. Finally, Chief Seaton put his cigar down and he said, okay, would you ever try to overthrow the American government? I said, no. He said, okay, let's move on from that.
Thank God he said that. Yeah.
But that shows you, I didn't even espouse the causes, but I felt close to them. And so I just went along. And now, of course, I'm absolutely the opposite of that. Every year, I have changed much more. It's like you guys. We all become a different person over time. And yeah. I used to, this would probably be for another chapter, but all it takes is to hear me talk a little bit to know that I can be obscene and raucous and inappropriate very easily. My mother was a wonderful Christian person. And my mother used to say, I do not know why the Lord gave me a heart that wants to serve him so much, but a mind that's so smutty. And that's kind of what I inherited, I think, because I can always think of the off-color thing. And so when I was younger and on the job, that was kind of a way to get attention. And there's nothing I haven't said at some point, and probably nothing I haven't done at some point. But at some point, you mature out of that. And every once in a while, somebody will get in touch with me that I remember from back then. And they'll say, remember the time this? And I tell them the same thing every time. That was a different Tina Rowe. And I'm not that Tina Rowe now. There's many aspects of me that's that way, but I grew out of that. And I don't want to be that person all the time anymore. And that's what I would say to the people here that are listening is whatever we've been like in our career, whatever kind of persona that everybody thought of us, we don't have to stay with that forever. We can be whole new things, especially after we retire. We can reinvent ourselves. And I hope a lot of people watching will do that, will think of that and take it seriously.
Well, Tina, you know what? Our worst enemy has come upon us. But you know what? You're definitely coming back. Benny, without a doubt, is going to be reaching out to you, or Chalo's going to be reaching out to you. But tell us real briefly between now and then. I'm looking at maybe next month. Benny will call you. You're definitely coming back. There's so much more to talk about. And our first lady just said, wow, this lady is amazing. And you are. But tell us about your book.
Well, it's in the 3rd edition now. It's a book on assessment center preparation, but the people that review it say the same thing over and over again. It's more of a book about, I love law enforcement. I want you to too. And if you want to get promoted, this will help you get promoted. I do have a knack. I'd have a knack for helping people know how to present themselves well in assessment processes. But I always tell them, I may not want you to get promoted if your heart's not in the right place. So it's a great book for that. But if you all who are watching, you got my email address, trotraining at Comcast.net.
Go ahead and put it up. Give me a quick second. I'm going to put it up right now. There we go.
Good.
So somebody
Okay.
can get a hold of you. Let me see.
Well, anyway, if they see that, they can get in touch with me about church security material. I have some to send to them. They want to know about my strategic patrolling stuff. And I'm not trying to sell anything. It's just if you would like to have it, I've got material. And certainly if you know somebody who's interested in being promoted, I have information for them as well. So get in touch with me.
Tina, it was an honor. It truly is. And I agree with Mike. You know what? We love Mike, and he's going to be coming on. He's another great legend. But you're the goat of all goats, man, when it comes to female officers. Thank you very much. Benny, I know you're going to be receiving a call from Benny or Chalo. We can't wait to have you back. Benny, any last words for Tina?
Tina, it was just awesome having you on the show. I mean, Chalo told us about you.
Nice.
Chalo spoke, highly of you. And he says, hey, we got to get this lady on. And he was right.
Well, it was great. I appreciate the opportunity. I really did. Thanks a lot.
And Chalo, any last words for Tina?
Oh man, you surpassed my expectations, Tina. It's so fun. I would love to sit down and just talk to you and just hear all your stories, pick your brain, run stuff by you and see, what you think, on some of the stuff that I did in my career. And say,
I can't end up without saying this. You said that I surpassed your expectations. I bet you no woman has ever said that to you.
That's it. Okay.
Without a doubt. Hey,
Yeah,
Tina,
right.
you know what? We will see you very soon. God bless you, and go Broncos. Go Broncos.
Good. Yes. Thank you.
All right. God bless you. We'll see you soon. God bless you. Thank you.
Bye, Tina. Bye.
Oh, man. I agree, man. I was going to say a legend, but it's beyond a legend, man. It's a gold. You know what I mean? Man, Chalo, you outdid yourself. Cosa, señora.
You know what? It's this lady, man. It's you read everything, and very interesting career, her life. And now that we got to know her personally, hey, Benny, now you understand, right? The song, that's her.
Yeah.
It's she's a fun person to be around with. I mean, I could just, man, I it's one of those, when you have an uncle or an aunt or somebody that you like talking to, and you can go on talking for hours into the wee hours of the morning when you don't get tired. You know what I'm saying? You're drinking coffee or whatever, and you just talk. I mean, that's the way I feel her. That's the way I feel her. Somebody you just don't get tired of talking to. Awesome.
And Benny, you know what, Benny? Please get a hold of her, man. We're going to have her 2 or 3 times. I mean, she's a legend. She's waiting for us so we could talk to her. But Benny, I know that next week this has changed. We were going to have CDC fired up host Don Garrett. Have we heard of it? He can no longer be on the show because I guess CDC put his show down. Let's don't talk about that, but can you tell us if somebody else has taken his place for next week?
I'm working on it. It's a last minute thing, so I'm working on it. We'll get somebody on.
Okay.
Hey, David. So David, real quick, so even though he cannot talk about stuff, CDCR doesn't control who we and what say, right?
Oh no, and CDCR doesn't control what he says because he's retired.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for CDCR to come after us. I'm just waiting for that.
We're respectful. Yeah.
I mean, talk about violating somebody's rights. I mean, if the guy was lying, and he was making up stuff, I could see, why, but this is another show. Maybe we should do a show about talking about how they want to censor people nowadays.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
Well, you know what, Benny? Maybe we could do that next week. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Censorship, man. You can't do that, dude. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
I'm just
Hey,
waiting.
guys,
I'm just waiting.
they're happy. Go ahead.
I'm just waiting for a phone call from them. I ain't going to be nice or anything. Bullshit. It's censorship.
Yep.
They got no right.
We're not going to get a call. Guys, they have happy hour downstairs. I'm getting paid. They're waiting for me. And all I'm going to hear once again is, where's Benny Cruz? Forget David Contreras. Forget Chalo. Forget Sean. Forget Bobby. And forget Doug. It's all about Benny Cruz. Everybody wants to meet Benny. If they want to meet you, they can go to your conference. Yes.
Hey, we should make one of those dummies like ventriloquists and take him with you. So when they ask him, you pull him out of your suitcase and you say, he's right here.
Dude, people love you, Benny. And you know what?
Like everybody,
people love you.
Like all these people that want to meet Hector Bravo. Hey, you want to meet him? Go to our conference.
Yeah.
Go to our conference.
Exactly. Yeah. But Benny, you know what? That just shows you, that you're making it. We're all making a difference. But guys, with that said, last words, Chalo. Last word, my brother.
And you know what? We just saw this lady that has so much integrity, man.
Yeah.
You look at what she did, man. Integrity means everything, man. And you know what? Her life reflects, her career reflects her integrity, man. And thank you so much, Tina, again.
Benny, last words.
She just brought us back from the days of Adam 12 into the new generation.
Yeah, that's right.
What a difference. What a difference. Just think about it. The days of Adam 12, what they look like to now.
Yeah. What an honor. What an honor it was to have her. And you know what, like I always say, live every day like it's your last day on earth. Live a purpose-driven life and make a difference in somebody's life. Whether you're retired or still on the job, make a difference tomorrow. Make every day count. We will see you next week. God bless you.
Outside of this one church town, there's a gold dirt road to a whole lot of nothing. Got a deed to the land, but it ain't my ground. This is God's country. We pray for rain and thank Him when it's falling, 'cause it brings a grain and a little bit of money. We put it back in a plate. I guess that's why they call it God's country. I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind, that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country. We turn the dirt and work until the week's done. We take a break and break bread on Sunday, then do it all again, 'cause we're proud to be from God's country. I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind, that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country. God's country. I don't care what my headstone reads or what kind of pine wood box I end up in. When it's my time, lay me 6 feet deep in God's country.